After nearly a decade at the helm of Canadian politics, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation, succumbing to a wave of criticism that had increasingly grown impossible to overlook. This decision came amidst mounting discontent from various quarters, with one of the most vocal critics being none other than Chrystia Freeland, his former deputy prime minister and one of his longest-serving allies. The roots of the criticism can be traced back to December, when Freeland publicly criticized Trudeau's administration for what she termed a reliance on costly political gimmicks. Her remarks were particularly directed at recent policy proposals put forth by Trudeau, which included a controversial 2-month sales tax holiday and cash rebates of 250 Canadian dollars, approximately $175, for most workers. These initiatives were seen by many as superficial attempts to garner public favor, rather than substantive measures aimed at addressing the pressing economic challenges facing Canadians. In her resignation letter, Freeland articulated the growing rift between her and Trudeau, indicating that they had found themselves at odds about the best path forward. Her statement carried an implicit critique of Trudeau's leadership style and decision-making process, suggesting a disconnect between the government's priorities and the needs of the Canadian populace. Freeland poignantly remarked, "Canadians know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves," a statement that underscored the perception that Trudeau's administration had become increasingly self-serving. Only a few weeks after this public rebuke, Trudeau made the unexpected announcement of his resignation, marking a significant turning point in Canadian politics. His decision not only reflects the internal pressures within his party, but also highlights broader concerns among the electorate regarding the direction of his government. Trudeau first came to power in 2015, heralded as a fresh face in Canadian politics with a promise of progressive change. His administration initially garnered significant support for its policies on climate change, gender equality, and a compassionate approach to immigration. However, over the years, this support began to wane as various factors contributed to a shift in public sentiment. Economic challenges, including rising inflation, housing affordability issues, and the lingering impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, created a backdrop of discontent. Many Canadians began to feel that the government was not adequately addressing their concerns. As dissatisfaction grew, so did the scrutiny of Trudeau's leadership and policy decisions. Freeland's role as Deputy Prime Minister was pivotal, as she often served as a bridge between Trudeau's administration and the public. Her criticisms were particularly impactful given her long-standing loyalty to Trudeau and her previous positions of responsibility, including her role as Minister of Finance. As a well-respected figure within the party and the government, her public dissent carried weight and signaled a fracture in the unity of Trudeau's leadership team. Freeland's comments about the government's focus on costly political gimmick resonated with many Canadians who felt that the administration was more interested in short-term political gain than in implementing effective, long-lasting solutions to pressing issues. Her resignation letter, laden with pointed observations about the disconnect between the government and the public, illustrated a broader sentiment within the party and among the electorate. The public's response to Trudeau's policies had been growing increasingly negative, with many expressing frustration over what they perceived as superficial attempts to address serious issues. The proposed sales tax holiday and worker rebates, while intended to provide immediate relief, were seen as inadequate responses to the deeper structural problems affecting the economy. Many Canadians were looking for comprehensive strategies that would tackle the root causes of their economic distress, rather than temporary measures that might appease voters in the short term. This disconnect likely contributed to Freeland's decision to resign, as she may have felt that her vision for effective governance was at odds with Trudeau's approach. Trudeau's resignation marks a pivotal moment for the Liberal Party and Canadian politics as a whole. His departure opens the door for new leadership that could potentially recalibrate the party's priorities and strategies. The internal dynamics of the Liberal Party will now be under scrutiny, as members will have to come together to select a new leader capable of addressing the concerns that led to Trudeau's downfall. This leadership transition also presents an opportunity for opposition parties to capitalize on the uncertainty within the Liberal ranks. The Conservative Party and other opposition groups will likely seek to position themselves as viable alternatives, emphasizing their own policy proposals and critiquing the shortcomings of the outgoing administration. As Canada embarks on this new chapter, the focus will inevitably shift to the future direction of the government. The next leader will face the daunting task of restoring public trust and confidence in the Liberal Party, while also addressing the myriad challenges facing Canadians today. Economic recovery, climate change, and social equity will likely be at the forefront of any new administration's agenda. Furthermore, the political landscape in Canada may undergo significant changes as voters reassess their priorities and expectations from their leaders. The recent events surrounding Trudeau's resignation serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of genuine engagement and responsiveness in governance. Justin Trudeau's resignation after nearly a decade in power is a reflection of the complex interplay between leadership, public sentiment, and political accountability. The criticisms voiced by Chrystia Freeland and others underscore the necessity for leaders to remain attuned to the needs of their constituents. As Canada looks to the future, the lessons gleaned from this period of political turbulence will be vital in shaping the next chapter of Canadian governance. The coming months will be crucial as the Liberal Party navigates this transition and seeks to regain the confidence of the Canadian public.